In the middle of 1971, an Australian motoring journalist was handed the keys to a brand new mustard yellow Ford Falcon in a Melbourne car park. He took it out onto the highway, buried his foot in the throttle, and later wrote these exact words: "This is the fastest, most awesome supercar Australia has ever produced, or would ever do again." He was absolutely right. The car he was driving was the Ford Falcon XY GTHO Phase III. At the time, it was the fastest four-door production sedan on the planet. It was faster in a straight line than a Ferrari Daytona. It was built in a factory in Broadmeadows, Victoria, and it was designed for one purpose, and one purpose only: to win the Bathurst 500. But the craziest part of the Phase III story isn't how fast it was. It is what happened next. Just 1 year after it was released, the Australian government panicked. They called the cars bullets on wheels and threatened a national ban. In a single week, the government completely wiped out Australia's entire muscle car industry. This is the story of the GTHO Phase III. The engine America built but Australia perfected, the Bathurst legend it created, and the political scandal that killed it. When the October 1971 issue of Wheels magazine landed on newsstands, it was more than just a car review. It was a declaration. Mel Nichols, standing in a Melbourne car park with the mustard yellow Falcon XY GTHO Phase III, called it out in print. The Falcon XY GTHO Phase III is the fastest four-door production saloon in the world. That headline, the biggest stick, was not exaggeration. The numbers Nichols recorded on the Hume Highway test run were almost surreal for a family sedan. 0 to 100 miles per hour in 15.2 seconds, a top speed of 141 miles per hour, and an engine that would willingly rev to 6,150 revolutions per minute on the street and 7,000 revolutions per minute on the track. Even the official claim of 300 brake horsepower was a conservative mask. Dyno sheets showed closer to 380. The public response was instant. Here was a car built in Broadmeadows, Victoria, that could outpace a Ferrari Daytona, yet it wore the badge of a blue-collar Ford. The press ran wild with the story. Uwe Kustner's photograph of the Phase III's speedometer, needle buried deep, became a sensation. Motoring writers quoted Nichols's line again and again until it was folklore. But behind the headlines was a cold, strategic calculation. Ford did not just want to impress the public, it wanted to dominate Bathurst. The Confederation of Australian Motorsport Group E rulebook required 200 examples for homologation. Ford built 300. Every car that rolled off the line counted, not just for the race, but for the myth. This was not an accident or a marketing stunt. It was a deliberate overbuild, a move that gave Ford a margin for error and a buffer against any lost or damaged cars. The Phase III was never about rarity for its own sake. It was about meeting the letter and spirit of the rules, then going further. That is why, when the government crackdown came, there were already 300 of these machines on the road, each one a rolling contradiction, a family sedan with the heart of a race car and a public reputation that would soon turn from awe to controversy. The heart of the Phase III was forged in Broadmeadows and Geelong, where Ford's engineers went beyond Detroit's blueprint. Australian casting methods gave the 351 Cleveland block thicker cylinder walls, about 5 mm compared to the American 4 mm, tough enough to shrug off the heat and stress of long-distance racing. The metallurgy was not just local pride. Higher nickel and chrome content meant these engines handled sustained high revolutions per minute without flinching. Closed combustion chamber heads, unique to the Australian build, delivered a compression ratio that let the big V8 breathe deeper and hit harder with every stroke. Officially, Ford rated the engine at 300 brake horsepower. But every serious dyno test told a different story. The real number was closer to 380. That is why Phase III could rocket from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in just 6.4 seconds and storm through the quarter mile in 13.9 seconds. Top speed was around 228 kilometers per hour, faster than a Ferrari Daytona all with 4 doors and a bench seat. But Ford did not just chase peak power. The Phase III came with a mechanical rev limiter set at 6,150 revolutions per minute, a nod to reliability for the road. On the track, race teams stripped it out and wound the engine past 7,000 revolutions per minute, trusting the block's extra strength to hold together lap after lap. The gearbox was a close ratio, top-loader 4-speed, feeding grunt to a Detroit locker rear end, standard 3.25 to 1, with optional ratios up to 3.91 to 1 for those who wanted even sharper acceleration. Every detail, from the high-flow Holley carburetor to the oversized oil galleries, pointed to one purpose: survive Bathurst at full throttle, then drive home without a tow truck. This was not just a muscle car, it was a rolling laboratory. Ford Special Vehicles engineers built each Phase III like a race engine with license plates, then dared the world to keep up. The result was a machine that delivered on every headline, every myth, and every bit of its forbidden reputation. Bathurst, October 1971. The Falcon XY GTHO Phase III lines up on the grid, its 351 Cleveland 5.8, idling with a deep mechanical growl. Alan Moffat, already a legend in Ford Blue, knows exactly what he's sitting on. A car built to outlast, outgun, and outpace every rival on the mountain. The flag drops, and within the first sprint to the cutting, Moffat snatches a half-second lead. Over the next 6 hours, the Falcon proves unstoppable. Pit stops are surgical. The engine shrugs off every lap, and the car's straight-line power leaves Holden's Tiranas and Chrysler's Chargers watching taillights. As the laps wind down, Moffat unleashes the full force of the Phase III down Conrod Straight, pushing the tachometer past the numbers most road cars never see. When the checkered flag falls, he's 12 seconds clear of the field, a margin that, at Bathurst, feels like a lifetime. The victory isn't just a win, it's an exclamation mark. Ford's 4-door family sedan has just dominated the country's toughest race, and Moffat's calm, relentless drive cements the car's reputation as the ultimate weapon for both street and circuit. Inside Ford's Special Vehicles workshops, the mood is electric. The engineers, still buzzing from Bathurst glory, are already looking to the future. The next project sits under wraps, the XA Falcon GTHO Phase IV. This isn't just an evolution, it's a moonshot. The target is 410 brake horsepower, more than any Australian production car has ever seen. The body is lighter, the suspension geometry revised, the engine topped with a monstrous 850 CF FM Holley carburetor. 3 race-spec prototypes and a single road-going version are assembled, each one sharper and more focused than the last. The plan is simple: homologate, dominate, and raise the bar so high that no rival can follow. For a brief, heady moment, it seems like nothing can stop Ford's charge. The Phase III is king. The Phase IV is waiting in the wings. And the only question left is how fast, how far, and how long this wild ride can last. June 25, 1972. The Sun Herald's front page blared, "Supercars, a nation's danger, 130 miles per hour or more." Evan Green's article did not just question speed limits, it ignited a national firestorm. His opening salvo warned, the newly released high-performance cars from Ford, Holden, and Chrysler can routinely exceed 130 miles per hour, a speed that the roads and the average driver are ill-prepared to handle. Government safety experts are urging immediate legislative action before a tragic accident forces a crisis. By midday, Green's warning echoed across every major newspaper and radio bulletin. The Age and the Sydney Morning Herald reprinted the headline. Letters flooded in, branding these cars monsters on 4 wheels. A retouched photo of a Falcon's speedometer, the needle buried, ran everywhere, fueling a sense of looming disaster. The message was unmistakable. These were not just fast cars, they were a public menace. 3 days later, New South Wales Transport Minister Milton Morris stood in Parliament. His words cut through the uproar. "We are looking at a situation where manufacturers are putting bullets on wheels on our streets. Cars capable of 130 miles per hour or more should not be allowed for sale to the general public. This is a danger to the public and must be curbed immediately. Hansard captured every syllable. The press seized on the phrase, and the pressure mounted. Behind closed doors, the federal government moved fast. The Department of Finance issued a memo. Unless Ford, Holden, and Chrysler abandoned their supercar programs, they would lose lucrative Commonwealth fleet contracts, no police cars, no postal vans, no diplomatic sedans. The ultimatum was blunt: back down or lose your biggest customer. That ultimatum changed the calculation overnight. Within days, the industry caved. Ford dropped the Phase IV. Holden killed the V8 Tirana. Chrysler shelved the Charger. In less than a week, Australia's muscle car era ended, not with a crash, but with a quiet, collective surrender. The fastest family sedan became forbidden, not for its speed, but for what it symbolised in headlines and in Parliament. Today, the Phase III remains the ultimate forbidden fruit, faster than a Ferrari Daytona, banned by panic headlines like bullets on wheels. Its legend only grows as values soar past $1 million. But the craziest part? The debate rages on: Phase III or Tirana A9X, which is king? Drop your verdict below.